Jack Saunders with you tonight, and on Tuesdays we have one of the really exciting brand new bands that we love in session to perform for you from Maida, Vale. Please give it up, the Dunts, everyone! Yeah! Right, cowboy, let's go then! Yes, let's go. The Dunts in session tonight, everyone. We should have Rab.
That's me.
Hello, Rab. Rab, I'm very good, thank you. You're the lead singer of the band, right?
I certainly am.
Lead singer of the band.
I share it with my man Colin.
Collins, hello, Colin.
How's it going?
Very good, thank you, mate. You well?
I'm very good. Very, very good.
Excellent. David over on bass, how are you?
Howdy, partner. How you doing?
Very good, thank you. And finally, Kyle over... What did you call them? The Tubs, was it?
Smash the Tubs. He's a tub smasher.
He's a tub smasher.
Tub smasher.
Carl the Tub Smasher. Love it. Rab, Colin, David and Carl, they make up the Dunts, everyone. They're in session tonight on the show. Boys, before we embark on any kind of music, getting to know you guys, I thought we'd just play... Well, actually, no, we're going to get to know you now, but play a little game to get to know you, something a little bit different.
Okay. Yeah.
So I've got 4 scenarios in front of me. Play Wembley, make a game-changing album, have a massive bust-up and break up as a band, and become Saints of Glasgow. And then underneath that, I've got 4 legendary up-and-coming Glasgow bands that we play on the show. Declan Welsh and the Decadent West, Lucia, the Ninth Wave, and the Dunts. All I need you guys to do is match those bands to the relevant statements.
Oh, here we go, here we go.
And maybe splitting up a few friends here at this point.
Yeah.
But hey, right, okay, so let's start with, out of Declan Welsh and the Decadent West, Lucia, the Ninth Wave, and the Dunts, who's going to play Wembley?
I'd say Declan.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Why do you reckon Declan?
I think he'll will into being. I think he'll make it happen. He'll make it happen.
You know what? We had him on the show recently as well, in session, and the guy's got a terrific attitude.
Definitely.
A
100%.
Wembley attitude, you might call it, actually. A Wembley attitude. Okay, so Declan Welsh and the Decadent West, the Dunts reckon are going to play Wembley. Out of Lucia, the Ninth Wave, and the Dunts, who's going to make a game-changing album, one that's spoken about for years to come?
Ninth Wave.
Ninth Wave there.
I was going to say the Ninth Wave, actually. Yeah, they do things differently. They don't go by the book, do they? And they feel like they've got a game changer inside them. Okay, so that leaves you guys and Lucia. Who's having a massive bust-up and breaking up?
I mean,
I say we're really good pals, but I'd say based on our history, it's probably going to be us.
Yeah. I mean,
But we'll bring it back together. We'll bring it back together.
Oh, okay, so there's going to be a reunion down the line.
Yeah,
That's what
that's it to
they're
make the
saying.
big dollar.
Nice. And so, therefore, Lucia are becoming Saints of Glasgow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Excellent. Well, you know, the reason I did this, actually, is because, like I said, we're playing so much exciting talent out of Glasgow at the moment, and honestly, I think the bands of the future are coming from there. And it's not just you guys, it's the guys that we just listed and a few others as well that we play. Like, there's another band, Spires, who are just wicked, heavy rapids as well. We just love them on the show.
Yeah.
So, but tonight is all about you guys. We're going to go into your first track right now. We midnight dropped this recently on the show. Should we hear Marilyn?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. This is the Dunts in session with Marilyn.
So tired of bribe to sleep. You wouldn't know how things sit and burn. Those that came before you will have hit you while you only one. Marilyn, you only wanted love. Marilyn, you only wanted love. Marilyn, what happened on that night? They found you on the phone. If only you had known. No, Jean, what did those moments mean? Did they suspect properly? You never had to say. Pulling you too deep, so tired of privacy. You wouldn't know how things sit and burn. Those that came before you will have hit you from the only one. Marilyn, you only wanted love. Marilyn, what did they do to you? You only wanted love. get through to you? Marilyn, what did they do to you? You only wanted love. Did they get through to you? Pulling you into deep, so tired of private sleep. You wouldn't know. I've been sitting done. Those that came before you knew that it's when you're in the run. Never
That was the Dunts right there with their latest single, Marilyn. They are in session on the show tonight, everyone. 3 more from them to come throughout the show. And what start with Marilyn right there. We midnight dropped it recently. And it's just an absolute surefire belter, that thing, isn't it? And I love how at its very core, the Glasgow scene is built on punk music. And the Dunts are bringing the rawest form of that tonight in session. Yes, welcome the Dunts, please! They're in session tonight, people. We've just heard their latest single, Marilyn, which we midnight dropped recently on the show. It's a surefire anthem, by the way.
Thank you.
Surefire anthem. And I'm assuming from the references in the lyrics, they found you on the phone, also the silver screen. I'm assuming that this one is about Marilyn Monroe.
That's correct, yeah.
So why write a song about Marilyn Monroe? What was it about her that you really love?
I don't know. It tends to be with songs that an idea will just float into my head and then I'll just run far with it and take it. I think one of the main things that's kind of came back to me after I've written it is there was a poem by a Glaswegian poet called Edwin Morgan, and it's called The Death of Marilyn Monroe, and it's something I studied in school, so there's definitely a wee bit of influence there, but I wanted to see if I could take my own turn on it.
I think the Marilyn Monroe story actually reflects today quite nicely, because we're all so obsessed with icons and things like that. And you guys as a band, you tie indie and you tie punk together. And I want to just start off with the punk ties, actually, first of all, because that, for me, that kind of feels like the thing that knits you together. Like, that's the thing that really pulls you in. And what were some of your first punk experiences?
I think when we started, I think with the bands that we were playing with in Glasgow, it was almost as if nobody kind of really thought it was punk, and then we realised, I think, the excitement of the gigs and just how chaotic they were. I think that's when we started to realise that there was a part of that in us, because there's bands and stuff that we like, but it's just that chaos, and we've tried to capture that and just tried to take that as far as possible.
It seems to be like with punk music, the live gigs is where they're the most chaotic. And when we've done our first gig that was the most mental, we realised that this is what we want our gigs to be like. We want this absolute madness, chaos, and the only way to do that is to be, or have some kind of punk influences at least anyway.
And so from there, did you kind of branch out and search for some punk bands that you really liked?
I think
yeah, I think there's a lot of good punk bands in Glasgow, so we didn't have to look very far. We just had to look about at the people that we were playing gigs with at the time and take inspiration from them.
But there's also been like a kind of punk renaissance at the moment as well, with bands like Idols and Shame and stuff like that, so it almost seemed like a good time for it as well. It seems like there's quite a desire in the public.
Yeah, I think it's a wee bit of like what you're saying, kind of hinting what you're saying about Marilyn. It's kind of the climate, really. It's almost as if like the punk attitude's there because everybody we're pushing against this. Everybody's trying to make their way through music, but there's always that feeling that it's difficult, and I think the punk attitude comes into that.
I totally agree with you, and we are playing so much of it on the show. Crazy amounts of it, and not because it's the trend thing to do, but because there's so much good punk around as well. Talking about brilliant things at the moment. And then we're going to go into Bad Decisions now, which is the song that you dropped before Marilyn. And I kind of feel like Bad Decisions was the track that changed things for you guys a little bit.
I think as far as influences go with that tune, it's a lot more like almost pop punk.
Aye.
You know, it's no longer like kind of indie, like Britpop, if you want to call it that. Like it's definitely like just in a completely different direction. And once we were like kind of, it was one of our producers that was just like pushing us into that direction, because he grew up on that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And
I
we all
think
like it
someone
as well.
said, and there's some review somewhere, and someone said for the last, I think 4 bars or something like Busted would do. It was
Yeah.
just like that's totally, that's what we grew up on. You know what I mean? That was like one of the first bands we'd probably get into was Busted. So
Yeah.
there's definitely
No,
that in there.
definitely. I think that between at least 3 of us, I would say that it wouldn't be unfair to say that Busted were our first kind of musical
Oh, yeah,
venture.
definitely.
Oh yeah, don't get me, mate. I was a huge McFly fan.
Oh, we still are.
Don't get
We
me
still
wrong.
are.
Yeah.
It's still okay.
McFly are like
You'd
a
be
regular
following-
in the
was it
band
McBusted? You'd be following McBusted around the country.
Begging him for a spot slot.
Well, it's interesting you should say that, because I mean I had written down in front of me, you know, like pop punk greats like Blink-182 and Green Day like that, and I totally agree. They fly through your music now, and especially on Bad Decisions, and now in Marilyn as well. And Bad Decisions is a track that we've been hammering on this show. It's a track that people are well acquainted with now if they're regular listeners, and now they're going to get a chance to hear it in the flesh from Maida Vale. Let's do it right now. It's the Dunts in session. This is Bad Decisions. Dunts in session tonight on the Radio 1 Indie Show. Bad Decisions right there, and if you're a regular of the show, you'll know that one very well. An absolute classic anthem from this band, and they are sounding phenomenal tonight in session. Big up Martin, who's dropped me this text, 81199. I think it's my favourite actual review of a band we've had in session ever. He says, this band would sound perfect on a future Tony Hawk soundtrack. Yes, you are right, Martin. Please welcome the Dunts! So much fire, so much energy. I love it. Let's go, the Dunts.
Here we go.
You're sounding absolutely brilliant so far in session, and we are going to move into the section of the show that we like to call the Maida Vale Mashup. For anyone who doesn't know, the bands and artists that we get in session, we ask them to mash some of their favourite songs together, maybe even sometimes with their own songs as well, depending how they want to do it. But essentially, the palette is yours, gentlemen. You can have it as you wish. So, without telling us necessarily what you've chosen, can you tell us why you've chosen to mash these songs together?
So one of the songs that we are mashing up, we've been doing live for a while now, and the crowd reaction's always good, and we're going to be mixing it in with another song which is just a subtle wee reference to people that have been following us a long time, and people that have been there from the start, really, because a lot of people have said that Well, you'll see. You'll see in a few minutes. You'll see in a few minutes.
All right. No, yeah, don't give too much away.
Yeah.
Don't give too much away. I want this to be a surprise for everyone at home.
I think anybody that's listening that's been a Dunts fan for a while is going to appreciate this. So.
Yeah. Nice. Okay, so this is for the diehards right now.
This certainly is for the diehards.
This one's for the fans.
I love it. All right, the Dunts in session tonight, everyone. This is for the fans. It's their Maida Vale mashup. Yes, the Dunts! Yes! Boys, that was incredible right
Thank you.
there.
Yes.
Smashed
Thank
it.
you very much, Jack.
Hey Ya by Outkast with their very own track, Hampden Cabs as well. Boys, sounded absolutely massive. You know what? I get it now. Like when you were talking about punk music and discovering it through your peers and whatever, I get it because your energy is infectious. I think I've worked it out. That's why I love you so much.
We always get that whenever we go to see like our pals live at gigs and stuff like that as well, man. We're always the ones like going mental in the crowd, and it's not because like it's like we can't help it. Like when we've done South by Southwest, we went to see Rascal and me and Colin like blew both our voices out before we even played our first gig, like screaming at our pals.
You know what it is? It's because you're genuine fans.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's because you are genuine fans of these other bands and the scene and the music that you make, and that's like me, and that's like everyone else that listens to this show as well. And right now we're a little community just trying to change the game a little bit.
Man.
Yeah.
You're a big part of that. The Dunts, you sound absolutely incredible tonight.
Thank
we're
you.
going to come back to you in just a bit. If you just joined us, it's the Dunts in session tonight. Right, final track from our session guest tonight. Please welcome back the Dunts. me, by the time we get to the band making all the noise for the 4th time around, they've had enough and they're like, I'm just ready to go home. But you boys could be you'd be a resident band for me if you want.
Great idea.
We've got another. I'd say we've got another 20 in us.
Let's keep going then. Let's keep going the whole show.
Yeah, let's do it.
Dunts in session tonight, everyone. You're going to hear their final track in just a second. This one's probably a fan favourite as well. Witch Hunt is on the way. First, though, I just want to get to the bottom of your band and how the Dunts kind of came to be. Because there are going to be people listening to the show who haven't heard your band before, or they're going to be listening to the show and have been listening to like Bad Decisions or Marilyn and absolutely loving it, but don't know about you.
Yeah.
You know, and don't know where you came from. And I'm not talking about how you met, maybe we met at school. I'm talking about the roots right now. Mm-hmm. Where did you guys come from? Where did you guys grow up?
So I think one of the things that we all kind of realised, we've been pals for a long time, but I think one of the things we realised quite quickly when we were finding our identity with the music was that we'd all grown up on council estates in Glasgow. Glasgow is a place that's, well, it's got a lot of places like that. It's a lot of places, but it's something that we feel that we totally identify with. It's something that we feel bleeds through in the music, something that represents us, and it's something that we won't tire of talking about. But pretty much that's probably been one of the driving forces pulling us together. There's just this, we just feel so lucky to be where we are, so we'll just keep plodding ahead with it. But that's more or less the roots is. That's where
it's like a clique between us, because we're kind of proud that we're all working class. We're all kind of passionate about what we do, and especially talking about the punk scene and stuff. It's that kind of that clique. We can all just kind of, I don't know, it just feels right.
There's a natural essence about it.
Yeah.
It all just came together now.
I said this to Declan Welsh in the Decadent West when we had them in recently, and for me, you guys and that band as well, you resonate very similar to the debut album from Arctic Monkeys. And I'm not saying that you guys sound like them more like them, because no one's like the Arctic Monkeys, like the Arctic Monkeys, aren't they? But I mean, in terms of sentiment of the record and what you're writing about in your music, you know, that debut album was all about Alex Turner and the Arctic Monkeys and their mates growing up in Sheffield in a working class situation, and what everyone loved about it so much is that they brought everyone into their world.
Yeah.
And that's what I get from you guys, and that's what I get from Declan and a lot of the other bands that are coming out of Glasgow right now.
That's a lovely comparison for you.
Yeah, I see that album especially. I mean, that album is, and this is something we spoke about before as well, is that when that album came out, that is exactly what made me want to be in a band.
Yeah.
Hearing that for the first time, I was in my dad's car, and I remember listening to it front to back constantly, and it was just mesmerised by it.
I love how you're kind of expanding your writing from not just about Glasgow and your experiences there, but you're getting a little wild with it.
Yeah, it's nice. We try and be a wee bit, I don't know, a wee bit edgy or something. We just try and push the boat a wee bit.
Yeah, and I love that, and that's going to stand you in really good stead going forward, boys, because as a band coming up and coming through, you need to be able to separate from the rest at some point, and this kind of writing definitely does that. And thank you so much for coming in session tonight.
Thank you for having
us.
Thank you for having us, Jack.
And you're welcome back anytime, boys. It's the Dunts, everyone. Round of applause. Yes. Final track from them in session right now. This is Witch Hunt.
So they'll put these famous as the word and seen.
Final track from the Dunts in session right there. That was Witch Hunt on the Radio 1 Indie Show. And if you just joined us, these boys have been in session all night long. Unfortunately, if you have just joined us, that was their final track. However, if you like the sound of it and you want to check out Bad Decisions, Marilyn, and also their Maida Vale mashup that they did in session tonight, download the BBC Sounds app if you haven't already.